In the last isometric video, we covered basic shapes like cubes and cuboids. Today, I will be taking you through how to draw more complex and cylindrical shapes in an isometric style. I will be showing you all the steps of how I lay out and drew this project, as well as the design choices I made. The two key shapes we will be working with today are spheres and cylinders. To draw a cylinder, start with an oblong, roughly the size and shape you want your cylinder to be. Draw an oval in the top face of the oblong. This oval should touch all four sides of the square, but not go over it. It shouldn't touch the corners. Draw lines straight downwards from the edges of the oval and connect the lines together with a curved line which should be similar to the top of the oval. Once you erase the oblong, you have a cylinder. To create a sphere, start with a cube. Similarly to how you drew the top of the cylinder, draw a circle inside the cube. The edges of the circle should touch all 6 exterior edges of the shape. You'll find that once you erase the cube, you are left with a rather flat looking circle. By shading in the circle from darker to light, we can create the illusion of depth, which turns our simple circle into a sphere. But how can we apply this to our design? The design project for this video was to create a plaything for a spy. Everything a spy uses is dual purpose. In order to keep her job a secret and to make it easier to carry them around, she hides all her gadgets in everyday objects. Our extraordinaire needs constant access to her gadgets so that she can react quickly to any situation she may find herself in. The first thing I did was draw out my ideas in my sketchbook, before settling on the idea which I thought answered the questions on the think cards most effectively. Once I had settled on a final idea, I did a more detailed sketch and then moved over to the ideas pad. To start off my final design, I began to draw the hockey stick. I used boxes as placeholders to show where things would be before adding detail. I drew a cube to represent the ball. In these initial drawings, the scale is 1 to 2, which means that one box equals 2 inches. Drawing to scale can be very important. This could be a miniature hockey stick and a massive statue of a hockey ball. I began adding detail to my hockey stick, creating a circle inside the cube, going over it in pen and erasing the pencil lines. Once I had my circle, I began shading in pencil, starting in the bottom left of the sphere, making my pencil marks lighter as I colored towards the top right. Shading can be really tricky, so don't panic if you can't get it first try. Remember to press down gently with the pencil and follow the curve of the sphere. I created a 1-to-1 scale ball, where 1 square equals 1 inch. I repeated the exact same steps, but it's much clearer how I shaded the sphere. I imagine my light source, the light which is illuminating my picture, is above the project on the right. The small circle I drew on the top of the sphere is where the light will be brightest, because it's the closest point to my light. After erasing that, I started shading, using the tip of my pencil to outline the darkest areas around the bottom of the sphere. I then used the side of my pencil, pressing gently to create a gradual colour change as I coloured in around where my circle was, finally erasing my lights. To add detail to my hockey stick, I drew in the side profiles that I wanted for each section of the stick. A circle for the handle and a semi-sphere for the bow, also drawing the curve for the hook of the stick. I used a ruler to draw the edges, connecting the guide shapes together to form one solid shape, as well as drawing the grip for the handle and going over everything in pen. Now that my 1-to-2 scale hockey stick is drawn, I wanted to show off more detail in my design. I started drawing the necessary oblongs to create a 1-to-1 scale hook for my hockey stick. I added small details, like a faint line where the hockey stick splits to release the hook, drawing the start of the hook a second time to show the grappling hook inside and outside the stick. I drew a curve to remind myself which way round I'm drawing the stick and added a placeholder for the detailed grappling hook. After drawing out the remainder of the bow of the hockey stick, I decided to draw the end of the handle. I drew the end cap separately to show the design, and then drew a small section of the handle. For the next section of drawing, I decided to use a set square. An isometric set square is a triangle with 3 different key angles for drawing in an isometric style. These angles are 90 degrees, 60 degrees, and 30 degrees. By rotating and using the flat edges of the paper as a guide, we can position our set square to make isometric shapes. This next part is drawing the handle onto the end of the hockey stick piece I drew earlier. In order to get this part central, I had to draw it off grid, making the set square very handy in getting the angles right. I also used it to draw holes for the grappling hooks to fit into, as well as the hooks on the end of the grappling hook. To create the curvature of the hockey stick, I drew outlining curves, keeping as close to the guide squares as possible, drawing curves connecting top and side profiles, smoothing out the blocky sides around the hook in the top and bottom faces. I drew a rope freehand on the back of the grappling hook and labelled with arrows to add detail later. I drew a circle on the end of my handle sketch and used a ruler and freehand curves to draw the edges of my handle and how they connect up to the bow of the stick, drawing in grip lines and labelling a few more things. I also drew the circles and curves for the detailed handle and lid before going over everything in pen and erasing all the pencil. Once everything has been drawn over and the pencil lines have been erased, it's time to annotate the design. I decided to make the ball a Wi-Fi hotspot so that our extraordinaire has constant access to communications. A Wi-Fi point needs to be powered, however. By converting kinetic energy, the energy which is generated when you hit or move something, into electricity would be perfect for a ball like this. I was heavily influenced by the question of what would our extraordinaire do in day-to-day life. She needs to have access to her communications at HQ at all times, but these communications need to be secretive and untraceable. A Wi-Fi access point, which would be carried around in a bag, would be discreet, making it watertight and airtight to keep it safe from the elements. Moving on to the hockey stick, I was thinking a lot about the components that made up the stick and questioning if each could have a different use or gadget. The handle, for example, is hollow, allowing our extraordinaire to hide documents, USBs, and other small but useful gadgets there. There is a grappling hook hidden in the hook, and the bow is hollow to store the rope in. These hollow sections allow for not only the gadgets I think our extraordinaire should store there, but also space for her to improvise and adjust to the situation the spy finds herself in. Finally, it's important to take note of the fact that the spy is an incredibly active and fit person. It's part of her personality and who she is. Sports and active games are far more likely to please our extraordinaire than virtual or stationary games. Our gadget needs to be transportable, multifunctional, and fun for the spy. When shading, the placement of the light source can be very important. If faces with features are all one shade, it tends to look very flat. You need your light source to highlight holes and curves of your object, so make sure to play around with where you put your light. Getting used to shading can take a lot of practice. If you're not sure whether or not your light source is in the right place, try shading very, very delicately, so that it's easy to rub out if you're not happy with your result. I would recommend using a 2B or 4B pencil for shading, but it's not necessary. I used a standard HB pencil for this project, as well as all of my shading. The other key thing to remember is that light sources come in all shapes and sizes. That will change how you shade your object. If you're shading a cuboid, there should be 3 faces you can see. An easy way to shade this is to have each face a different shade. The darkest face should be furthest away from your light source, the lightest face should be closest, and then the third face should be a medium between. When working with more curvy and cylindrical shapes, remember to keep a smooth gradient around the shape. Follow the curves of the shape to help you keep everything even. Don't be afraid to add more shading around curves and edges to help highlight them. If this video inspired you, be sure to like, share and subscribe. If you want to make this at home, links to the instructions and the Extraordinaire's Design Studio are in the description below. Thanks for watching.